our older CD-based consoles begin to age, their optical drives become ever increasingly more likely to fail. For gaming enthusiasts who want to continue playing on original hardware, devices called Optical Drive Emulators, or ODEs, are becoming more and more important. That couldn't be more true for some of the earliest CD-based consoles, such as the 3DO, which adopted CD technology fairly early. Today, we're going to install an ODE from a company called MNEMO into my broken 3DO console. Let's get right into it. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Tito and welcome to another episode of Retro Renew. Today we're going to take a look at the Optical Drive Emulator for the 3DO home console, more specifically the GoldStar variant of the 3DO, which is my personal favorite. Now you may be asking yourself two things. What is a 3DO and what is the company GoldStar? Well, I'm going to go over both briefly, starting with what the 3DO is. The 3DO is the brainchild of Trip Hawkins, who you may know as the founder of Electronic Arts. Trip wanted to create a next-generation 3D-based home console, so he enlisted the help of Dave Needle and RJ Michael, who designed the Commodore Amiga and Atari Lynx consoles respectively. Because the 3DO company lacked the funds to manufacture the console themselves, they decided to take the approach of licensing the 3DO technology to large third-party consumer electronics manufacturers. The three manufacturers that signed up to build 3DO consoles were Japanese giants Panasonic and Sanyo, as well as a South Korean company named GoldStar. Now, many of you may not be familiar with the company GoldStar. It was an electronics company founded in 1958 in South Korea. However, in 1995, GoldStar merged with another South Korean company called Lucky Chemical. The new company that was formed from this merger was then called Lucky GoldStar, or LG, which is the name I'm sure many of you are familiar with. LG went on to become a huge conglomerate, making many of the consumer electronics we see and use today. So effectively, the 3DO was a LG gaming console. Now, when the 3DO came to market, they were incredibly expensive, and this partially explains why the 3DO was a market failure. The GoldStar variant was released in 1994 for $400 US, which, if you account for inflation, is roughly $700 in today's money as of the making of this video. That's pretty darn expensive. Anyway, so now that we're up to speed on the 3DO and the company GoldStar, let's move our attention to my personal GoldStar 3DO console. As I have mentioned previously, older CD-based consoles, especially ones as old as this, will begin to experience failures of their CD drives. As you can see here, the console thankfully turns on, but when I try to open the CD drive, nothing happens. On my other GoldStar 3DO, you can see that it operates normally. So this broken 3DO is the perfect candidate to receive an ODE, which brings me to the kit we'll be installing in this video. This kit comes from a company called MNEMO, and it contains several parts. The first and most important item of the kit is the ODE itself. This small PCB precisely mimics the original CD drive of the 3DO. Here you can see the USB port where it can accept up to a 2 terabyte drive. Also, you'll notice that the USB port is oriented sideways. There are two configurations for this ODE. One is an inward-facing USB, which is the one that I have, and the other is an outward-facing, meaning it can be accessible when the console is put back together, but requires a little modification to the console's CD door. Mine being inward-facing is not accessible once the console is put back together, which I'm okay with because I'm not planning on updating the games on my thumb drive very often. Plus, it's easy enough to open up the console should I want to change out the ROMs on my USB thumb drive. On the rear of the ODE, you'll see the ribbon cable adapter, which interfaces with the console itself. Here you can see the MNEMO branding, and this looks to be revision 31 of the board. Next, the kit includes some standoffs, which will come in handy when we mount the ODE into the 3DO itself. MNEMO also includes an extra ribbon cable in case the one that is already inside the console is damaged, which happens fairly often in these GoldStar 3DOs, and I'm fairly certain is the issue with mine. The last thing in the kit is a simple set of printed instructions. Now the only other item you'll need is a thumb drive. I have a 16GB one, which isn't huge, but it should be more than enough for the games that I'm interested in. Alright, so before we get started with the mod, be sure to stay all the way to the end of the video so you can learn how to buy one of these, which surprisingly is a somewhat confusing process. I'll also explain how to load games properly onto the thumb drive so that everything works perfectly. Alright, without any further ado, let's get right into it. To get started, lay out a microfiber cloth to place your 3DO console on to protect the plastic shell. With the console upside down, remove the expansion port cover and unfasten the 4 screws at each corner. Flip the console back over and use a spudger to gently pry open the CD tray and extend it out about a quarter length. Lift the top shell out and around the CD tray. Unfasten the 2 screws to remove the RF shielding on the CD assembly. Now unfasten the 4 screws securing the PCB shown here. Next, remove these 4 screws securing the CD assembly to the console. Before we can remove the CD assembly, unlatch the ribbon cable from this PCB. As you can see, the ribbon cable has been damaged and is probably the reason why the 3DO wasn't functioning properly. Now we can gently lift the CD assembly out of the 3DO console. Now let's move our attention to the CD assembly. Unfasten these 8 screws so we can separate the CD drive from the bracket. We're going to reuse the bracket to mount our ODE. Remove the CD tray faceplate by gently prying on the 3 tabs on top. We'll need this later. Next, we're going to place the PCB standoffs in these 4 holes. There are 2 types of standoffs. We're going to use the one on the left with the longer thread length. Fasten each standoff as shown here. And this is what it should look like. Gently place the ODE on the standoffs, and then secure it with the remaining brass standoffs. You can go ahead and insert your USB thumb drive with all your games loaded. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video to see how to properly load your games. Now, since we removed the CD drive from the console, there is nothing to hold the CD tray faceplate. In order to avoid having a huge hole in the console, I'm using painter's tape to position the faceplate in the center of the opening. Once you're happy with the position, we can start the gluing. I cut 3 small thin pieces of plastic. Put a dab of hot glue on each end of the plastic and then place it on the faceplate so that it becomes attached to the surrounding shell. The nice thing about using this method is that it's completely reversible. The hot glue will come right off if you want to revert your console back to its original condition. This is what it should look like when you're done. Now carefully peel off the painter's tape. Wow, that actually looks really good. Again, here's what the inside looks like. Now we can go ahead and install the ODE into the console. Once back in position, secure it with the 4 screws. Next, grab the ribbon cable. Insert it with the contacts facing down, and then lock it in place. Fasten these 4 screws to secure the PCB to the console. Then unlatch the ribbon cable connector on the ODE and insert the other end of the ribbon cable, then lock it in place. Great, we're almost done. Reinstall the RF shield with the 2 Phillips screws. Then place the top shell back on the console. Flip it over and button it all up. Reinstall the expansion port cover. And we're done. Alright, so that was a fairly straightforward installation. I'd say it took me about 20 minutes to install. Just take your time and you should be good to go. So, looking over the menu, you'll notice that it's fairly simple. It's text-based with no graphics or artwork, but that's totally okay because it's easy to navigate and it gets the job done. Simply select the game you want to play, hit the A button, and you're good to go. Pressing the R and L triggers scrolls the cursor up and down quicker. And if you ever want to return to the main menu while you are playing a game, simply press and hold the open-close button on the console. Now, getting the ROMs onto your thumb drive takes a little bit of work, but it's nothing really that complex. You can take any USB drive. According to the website, it can be a USB 2.0, 3.0, and even 3.1, and be up to 2 terabytes in size. First thing you want to do is format the drive into FAT32. Windows natively can only format drives up to 32 gigabytes in size into the FAT32 file structure, so you'll need specialized software to format a drive larger than 32 gigabytes. Next step is to load your USB drive with image files of the games that you want to play. The format of those image files need to be in .iso. Most ROMs that you'll encounter will be in the bin and Q format, so you'll need again to download software to convert the Q file into an ISO file. For me, I use the free version of WinISO to do the conversion. It works well and I haven't had any issues with it for any of the games that I loaded onto my USB. Once the files are converted to ISO, just copy them to your thumb drive and you're done. It's a very simple and straightforward process. Now I want to quickly go over the pros and cons of this kit. Starting with the pros, I have to say that so far everything just works great. I haven't had any compatibility issues, and it turned my non-working GoldStar 3DO into a fully functioning one. It's a fantastic kit and I'm so glad someone makes this. Now, since there is only one manufacturer of this kit, this leads me to my first con. And that is the price. MNEMO makes ODEs for all of the consumer 3DO models. He makes them for the Panasonic FZ10, FZ1, the Sanyo TRY, and the GoldStar GDO 101. Now, being that he is the only producer of ODEs for the 3DO, he charges a bit of a premium. Prices range from $90, which is how much the GoldStar one costs, to $195 for the Panasonic FZ1 model. So definitely take that into consideration if you're planning on purchasing one. The only other con, in my opinion, is MNEMO's ordering process. It's a little convoluted and may seem shady to some, but if you follow the process, you will receive your ODE. Speaking of the ordering process, let me explain how it's done. So MNEMO doesn't have a normal storefront like most businesses. His website is very bare bones and is a little bit difficult to follow how exactly one is to place an order. To begin, you first of course need to know what model 3DO you have. Then go to the website 3do-mnemo.com and then click on the How to Buy link at the top. Scroll down a bit to the chart where you see the various 3DO models listed and select the one you want to buy by clicking on the Make Order link. This will bring you to a new page where you need to fill out a form. The first question in the form is payment method. There are two options. The first is payment as gift. This is the cheaper of the two options. If you choose this option, you will need to send payment preemptively to MNEMO as a gift through PayPal. If you choose the second option, which is a bit more expensive, MNEMO will send you an invoice. This option gives you a bit more peace of mind as there is now an official PayPal transaction recorded. Now the next question in the form may differ depending on the ODE model you choose, since they relate to certain options available to certain models. The last page of the survey has a few fields that you need to fill out. They are your PayPal account email, your full name, your shipping address, and any additional notes you may have. Be sure to fill them all out accurately. This information will be used by MNEMO to cross-reference payments with orders since this isn't being conducted through a normal web store. Once you send your order and make the payment through PayPal, you should receive your ODE within 10 to 25 days if you're within the United States. I got mine in a few weeks. Now, while watching this video, you may have noticed this very cool small Sony PVM. If you're into gaming on retro home consoles such as the 3DO, or the more popular ones like the Sega Genesis or the Super Nintendo, then you probably know professional CRT monitors like the Sony PVM are the best displays to play these games. Now, I got this particular PVM from my friend Steve, who happens to have a fantastic YouTube channel dedicated to repairing, restoring, and discussing these awesome monitors, so definitely check him out at Retro Tech. I'll have a link to his YouTube channel and the video where he actually refurbished and calibrated this very PVM in the description below. So there you have it, the MNEMO Optical Drive Emulator for a very cool and yet underrated console, the 3DO. What did you guys think? Were any of you not familiar with the 3DO console or the company GoldStar before seeing this episode? If you own a 3DO console, are you planning on installing your very own ODE? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Macho Nacho Productions. I release content every Thursday, so be sure to turn on notifications. And as always, we'll see you next time.